My name is Julious Jacobs. I come from a mixed parentage of Milne province and New Island province. So my dad is from an island in New Island province. It's called Jowl Island. So it's just off the main provincial town, Kavian. My mom is from Samurai, Suau, in the Milne province, and we all grew up on an island in Milne. Lived most of our lives there. It was, I would say, family oriented, very laid back. We swam, went fishing, went to school, came home, played marbles, climbed mangoes, and basically I just ran down the road and ate in my neighbor's house. So that's the kind of lifestyle I grew up at. Everyone knew each other, and everyone was uncle and auntie. So the trust and the friendship and the family vibe was always there growing up. So gender inequalities that were observed in the community, or whether or not there were some, I cannot pinpoint with precision if there were any growing up, because I felt like the community was tightly knit and there was a good balance between male and female representation, even in councils. So there were female ward councillors and male ward councillors. Also in church, there were pastors and ministers. There were also leaders that were female. So yeah, I didn't see anything that was there was representation, I would say. So growing up, I haven't witnessed any family violence in my own family. In the whole community as a whole, there probably were some. Personally, I didn't have any encounters with family violence. I do remember, because my older sister is a police officer, and although I didn't witness any family violence, Dad was really big on actually advocating for my sister's rights and women's rights, basically. There was one time when I came home, myself and my friends made a female colleague of ours at school. We were in grade 5 or 6. We made her cry, and just because we were bullying her, we were picking on her. And I remember this very distinctly, because when we came home, my older sister, who was a policewoman, sat me down and she gave me a schooling that I will not forget. My father as well. So they pick you, the family, and the family orientation is so tight, and especially the community. So even if you're not their child, if there was a bad habit, that community always stepped in and sorted you out. They corrected you, or they always told your father. So you were corrected early on, and I think looking back now, that was a good thing. Because many times people see something and they say, oh, that's all my child, I'm not gonna do anything about it, especially if it's bad behavior. But it's really important that if something is wrong, you need to name it and call it out so that it's changed. Dad was very stern. He was very strict. We had to come home at before 6. In fact, by 5 you had to be home, help cook, and everyone had to carry their responsibilities in the house. So he was stern in that regard. In PNG, in my home that I grew up at, I think discipline was really important. And one thing that's drilled into you is actions have consequences, in everything. Dad disciplined us, mom disciplined us as well, and the discipline came in different forms. So back then, Dad would spank me. I did receive a spanking. He stopped when we were 7, but he wouldn't, now looking back, I wouldn't do it to my kids, but that was what Dad did to not only myself but my siblings as well. My older sister, if you were naughty, or you took the dinghy, I sometimes we were mischievous, my brothers and I. So one time we took a dinghy and we left without Dad's permission. So that was when we received spanking. So the type of spanking, I know it's not right here, but like dad had to spank your hands, like with a wooden spoon, I think. Yeah, I think it was a spoon. But yeah, mom did the same as well. But did do it as it happened on that day and then forget it. So I think that kind of parenting that dad and mom had done had an impact, a positive impact in my life, in that kids are allowed to make mistakes. Like kids, I was allowed to make my own mistakes and to learn from them, and to like not be afraid to come to your parents anytime to discuss certain issues. Is family violence or gender-based violence our culture? To answer this question, I think we have to define what culture is and the characteristics of culture. And for me personally, I think culture is a very fluid thing. It's changing all the time. It's very dynamic. Currently, there are some misconceptions about culture. A case in point is relating it to gender-based violence is the culture in Papua New Guinea about bride price. Bride price used to mean thanking the parents for a bride and saying there is a transition of for paying the family off to say thank you for looking after this child, and now she's grown into a woman and now she's my wife, and I just want to say thank you. It's misconstrued to mean that the woman becomes a property and people then take advantage of that to abuse women and say that it is our culture, where in actual fact it's not our culture to abuse women. It never was our culture to abuse our women. And like we said, culture is changing. So what was back then was that we respected our women, and especially the place where I'm coming from, Milne province, women were treated equally, women were respected, and land was passed through women. So land is a very valuable thing in our culture. So women, although they don't stand up there and speak in meetings, some of them do. Most of them are very soft skills women, especially the women in my life, the role models in my life. So they're there, but don't mistake it that they don't have a say. They do have a say. They just choose to choose not to speak at certain occasions, and that's a choice. So coming back to that thing about culture and gender-based violence, it never used to be our culture. Currently, there's a misconception, and the question is, do we want these misconceptions to be continued throughout the future? And the answer is that no, it shouldn't. And culture is like dynamic, so we have to ensure that what happens in the future doesn't include the bad parts of these misconceptions. They have to be corrected, and that our women should be respected always, at all times, wherever you are, regardless. In PNG, Australia, our women should always be respected. Yeah.